Hello viewers and listeners. In this episode, Feroz will center the discussion around finding your purpose. He believes purpose can be unlocked with the power of relationships, your career, and gratitude. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the fourth episode.
Welcome to episode 4 of the Wisdom and Wealth Solution channel. In the previous 3 episodes, we have covered the introduction, then we covered Know Yourself, then we covered Know the World, and now we are going to focus on Know Your Purpose. In the previous episode, we covered Earth, life, consciousness, where we are in history in terms of humanity, how the world is changing, what are the risks and opportunities, and how we can benefit from them. So coming to part 3 of the book, which is Know Your Purpose. Here, our focus is going to be what makes life meaningful. Until you understand why you are here, your life will never feel whole. We need to have a recognition of the big picture. Right? Now, purpose turns wisdom into action, clarity into direction, and financial security into a meaningful life rather than a well-funded existence. So what brings meaning and purpose to life? What is important to an average person? What tethers us to move forward? Or what tethers us to reality and hope? There are 5 big things that give meaning to life. Number 1, faith, family and relationships, duty and service, it could be career, and then gratitude. And we also have to recognize that we are still within that concrete box, and we have to be able to look outside that concrete box to be able to find authentic meaning. And meaning is not handed to you. It is created through how we love, how we serve, how we live. Whether your compass points towards God, dharma, or duty, what is most important is that you have a compass. You have purpose, which makes everything meaningful. Now, what type of meaning are we talking about? We can have cosmic meaning or we can have terrestrial meaning. Terrestrial meaning is your meaning, your value, your purpose while you're on earth, right? So you're meaningful to your family, you're meaningful to your friends, you're meaningful to your relatives, you're meaningful to your colleagues, maybe you're meaningful to your community, to your city, to your state, and to the world. So each one of us has significant terrestrial meaning while we are here, right? That is terrestrial meaning. Then some of us, or people who have faith or belong to a faith tradition, they believe or that they have cosmic meaning, that their meaning extends beyond earth and beyond this life. They believe that meaning could come from life after death. It could come from whether they would end up in heaven or hell. It could come from reincarnation. It could also be our view that our action on this earth is balancing the universe between good and evil, right? So that's cosmic meaning. So each one of us certainly has terrestrial meaning, and people who belong to a faith tradition, they also feel that they have cosmic meaning. But where does it come from? What is the process of really tethering ourselves to that meaning and that bigger purpose? One source is religion. We did talk about it earlier. Actually, the book opens with a chapter on religion, why it exists and why it persists. That was sort of the beginning. But here we take a different approach to religion. So for a lot of people, religion is not a barrier, but a foundation for meaning. It's a deep well of purpose, right? Here, I think people that believe they again find cosmic meaning through their faith. That, hey, not only do I have terrestrial meaning, I have cosmic meaning as well. Now, if you look at Abrahamic faiths, it could be Judaism, Christianity, Islam, right? Each one has their own sort of take on life's purpose, life's meaning. Then we have Indian and East Asian traditions, right? So when we look at Hinduism, they focus on dharma and moksha, right? If you look at Buddhism, which is awakening beyond suffering. When we talk about Taoism, that is living in accordance with natural flow. So again, these faiths can bring us cosmic meaning. Now, terrestrial meaning is meaning on earth, and I find Confucius's ideas very compelling. When Confucius talks about the concentric circles, I think that's a very good way of adding or finding our meaning, and I think it is applicable to people who belong to a faith, people who are agnostic, or people who are atheist. I think we can all really benefit from Confucius's concentric circles in terms of how to find meaning. The other thing that can make life very meaningful and purposeful is relationships, how they bring purpose to our life. And I say that the quality, depth, and number of relationships that you have is the single most important predictor of meaning and well-being. So we as humans have evolved for connection. We can call it survival of the friendliest. There is a very famous Harvard study. It's called Study of Adult Development, which has now been going on for 85 years continuously. And over the years, they have provided different conclusions and findings. But one thing that has been very consistent that this Harvard study has found, that positive relationships keep us happier, healthier, and help us live longer. So relationships is a better predictor of a person's lifespan and health span than maybe diabetes at a younger age, or heart issues, or other ailments. So relationships is at the core of our existence, and it can bring tremendous meaning to us. There are studies which say that relationships are a pain reliever for us. They outsource our stress. And again, if we look at our life, humans are social animals, and having good and deep and meaningful relationships is the key, again, to lifespan and health span. A British anthropologist and evolutionary psychologist, Dunbar, came up with a very interesting study that is now used for what we say the Dunbar's layers of connections. What he found was that our brains are wired with a natural limit, which is about 150 meaningful connections. So as humans, we are restricted. Our mental capability is such that we cannot really maintain more than 150 meaningful relationships. But what I say is that it's not the number, it's the depth of relationships that really matter. True intimacy is reserved for the precious few. So what Dunbar's layers say about connections is that each one of us has 5 deep innermost connections. These are ride or die connections that we have, and they form the core of our life. They form the core of our meaning, of our purpose. Then we have 15 close family and friends. We have 50 good friends. We have 150 meaningful connections. And then we have 500 acquaintances. But again, I think it's the 5 and the 15 and maybe the 50 that really matter, right? But we really have to cultivate and deepen and nurture these relationships to be able to enhance our wisdom wealth, to be able to create total wealth, because relationships give us purpose. Now, in our book, I share this statistic, which is very concerning, that in 1990, 3% of Americans said that they have no close friends. 3%. Today, that number is at 12%. So 12% of Americans have no close friends. That's a problem. That is a concern. In this age of hyperconnectivity, in this age of social media, there are 12% of us have no friends. We are lonely. So in this noise of social media, there is silence in terms of personal, deep relationships. Now, what are some of the most important and deep relationships that a person can have? And here, I believe that the partner that you will choose or the partner that you will be with is going to have a big impact on your emotional climate, on your financial trajectory, on your habits and dreams, right? So compatibility with your spouse is not really perfection, it's alignment with what matters most. So I think when we are choosing our life partner, that should be a very thoughtful choice, right? Because even though 40% of marriages unfortunately end up in divorces, but that itself is painful. It is difficult. It's traumatic. So in my book, I do talk about what a successful, loving partnership looks like, and why we should place tremendous importance on our life partner. The second important choice for purpose is having children. I've spent quite a bit of time studying David Benatar's philosophy. He's a South African philosopher, and he's an antinatalist. He believes that having children is immoral. I do not agree with his philosophy, but having children is a huge responsibility. It is an irreversible act, right? When you have children, you have children. And what I was also surprised to find is that 50% of all pregnancies in the world are unplanned. 50%. That's a huge number. So 50% of people are having kids that they did not plan to have. So as we are having children, right, or as we explore that possibility, we should know that, of course, children bring us great joy. It is encoded in our genes to leave more copies of our DNA, but it's a huge responsibility. I say that having children is a lifelong responsibility. Being a parent does not end when your child, your son or daughter, gets to age 18. It is a lifelong commitment. So, choosing your spouse, having children, these are two important decisions that will have a big impact on your purpose and on meaning of life and how happy you are. The next thing that is important for purpose and meaning is work, is our career. Because if you let's suppose a person lives to age 80, they will spend 1/3 of their life working. So work and career has a very special place in our total wealth equation, because it bridges both financial wealth and wisdom wealth, because work and your career is going to give you the resources to be able to build wisdom wealth. But you're spending 8, 9, 10 hours at work every day, right? 5 days a week. So the relationships that you have at work, the type of work that you do, all of it has a big impact on your well-being, which is part of wisdom wealth. So when you are choosing your career or how you manage your career or your work, think about the financial aspirations that you have. Is your work aligned with your financial aspirations? Is your work compatible with your skill and abilities? The risk appetite that you have, is it in line with your career? And then what does your health and biology afford you to do professionally? So these are all important things to think about as you embark on a career or manage your career, right? So work is critically important. As a wealth manager, I find that some of our clients, when they retire, they become concerned or they become depressed because their life had revolved around their work. And now they don't have that identity. They don't have that purpose. So that meaning goes missing from their life, and that causes tremendous anxiety. As we look at work, and we have to recognize that how we do our job is going to change with AI. I believe it's not going to be as crazy fast as everyone is expecting it to be, but AI is going to be part of everyone's work routine. It would be integrated into our workflow, just like we all are online, right? We are all part of a network, which is the internet, right? So just like internet has slowly changed how we communicate, how we work, the type of work that we do, the next big shift is going to be AI, and it will change how we do our jobs. And again, as we said earlier, our goal is to use the 3 A's, which is awareness, action, and acceptance as far as AI goes. So work is important. It is changing. You must think about it very seriously because it adds tremendous meaning to your life. Now moving on, what else can add to our meaning and purpose? Here I'm going to spend some time talking about gratitude, because gratitude can add to our happiness, it can enhance our life experience, and it can add so much meaning and purpose. So what is gratitude? Gratitude is a feeling where you appreciate your life. You appreciate all the good things you have. You appreciate people around you. You appreciate your career. You appreciate your health. You appreciate your wellness. So it's that overarching sense of appreciation that I call gratitude. And it is tremendously, if we are grateful, there is tremendous amount of research which shows how gratefulness and gratitude adds to our happiness, how it adds to our well-being. So why aren't we all grateful? Why are we all not appreciative of what we have? What is causing us to look for more or not be grateful? The reason is hedonic adaptation. So as humans, we have this evolutionary capability, right, to be able to deal, to be able to manage through bad things in life. They say that each human will experience 3 to 5 very difficult periods in their life. It could be breakup of a relationship. It could be death of a loved one. It could be a huge financial setback. It could be an illness, right? So these are setbacks that we have, but our biology is such that we overcome this setback and this difficulty, and that is called hedonic adaptation. Now this hedonic adaptation capability, which allows us to work through all the difficulties and negative events, it also has an impact on all the good things because we adapt to them too. So every good thing that exists in our life, we get used to it, and we are no longer appreciative of that good thing. So here are a few interesting data points. When people buy a new car, they do get a bump in happiness. How long does it last? 3 weeks. 3 weeks only. A new car brings you happiness but only for 3 weeks. When people buy a new home, they do get happy. They enjoy the bigger home, the more beautiful home, right? Maybe a better view. But that increase in happiness that comes from a new home only lasts for 9 months. After 9 months, we get back to our genetic point, our genetic set point of happiness. The last one, which is marriage. When people get married, they feel, yes, this is eternal bliss, right? We're going to be happy forever. But when people get married, they do get a bump in happiness, and that bump in happiness lasts for about 2 years. After 2 years, we get used to our partner, it's no longer a big deal, and we get back to our genetic set point of happiness. So what's happening here? It is hedonic adaptation, where we are adjusting to all the good things, right? So how do we come out of this state of hedonic adaptation? The idea is gratitude. Now there is this very famous equation which says happiness equals reality minus shifting expectations. Think about this equation, which is happiness equals reality minus shifting expectations. So our happiness is not really based on our reality, it is based on our expectations. So let's suppose if a person at age 60 wanted to have $5 million in their retirement account, but they only have 2. Are they happy or unhappy? Most likely they will be unhappy with that situation because they wanted 5. Now, $2 million is a big number, but their expectation was 5. They're only at 2. So the reality is 2, their expectation was 5. So reality is worse than the expectation. So that's what basically determines happiness, which is your current state compared to what you expected it to be. That is the point here. How do we manage it? Let's suppose that a student who expected to have a 3.9 GPA, but they only have a 3.6 GPA. Are they happy or unhappy? They're unhappy because their expectation was 3.9. If someone had an expectation of 3.5 and they ended up with 3.6, they're very happy. Lowering your expectations is not really the idea here. The goal is to develop reasonable, realistic, and authentic expectations, right? Which are achievable, which are measurable, and so that you do not get disappointed and your reality doesn't go too far away from your expectations. In terms of going back to our conversation about gratitude, right? What are certain important things that can impact your gratitude? One is that the internal conversation that we are having with ourselves. If I was to ask you a question, that whom do you have the most conversation with? I ask this question in my graduate class in all the teaching that I do, and usually the answer is, oh, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my spouse, my best friend, my parent, my mother, my father. But I ask, what about yourself? Whether you recognize or not, you are having the most conversation with yourself, and that internal dialogue is sort of taking you to different places. It takes you to an optimistic place, it takes you to a dark place, right? And at some level, you have some control of this conversation that is taking place in your mind. So this internal voice is the narrator of your life's documentary. The brain believes what it hears most often, especially from you. So if you have positive conversations with yourself, if you try to nurture optimism in this internal dialogue that is continuously taking place, it can train your mind to be grateful. It can train your mind to be optimistic. So make an effort, I say in the book, to reshape your inner voice. Catch when you say, oh, I always mess up. Switch the narrative towards your successes, right? So the most important relationship, the one that shapes all other relationships that you have is the relationship that you have with yourself, right? And you can make that relationship more positive. You can make that relationship more constructive by practicing gratitude. So here are 5 things that you could incorporate in your life to add gratefulness and gratitude. Number 1, spend some time to think about or write 3 good things that happen to you every week. So every Saturday, Sunday, spend 5 to 7 minutes either seriously reflecting about all the good things that have happened to you during the last week. You can do it every 2 or 3 days. You can do it daily. Think about all the good things that are happening. If you write them down, they will become more meaningful. Appreciate people more in your life. Everyone likes to be appreciated. Say good things to them, right? But your appreciation should not be flattery. It should come from your heart. So appreciate people and you will deepen your relationships, and that will add to your purpose, which will add to your wisdom wealth. Then celebrate good fortune. If good things are happening, use that opportunity to celebrate. Use that opportunity to get together. Use that opportunity to share, right? So celebrate when good things happen. Number 4, share what's important, right? In your life, the more you share about what is important, the greater, the deeper your relationship is going to be. And then last but not least, number 5, notice small pleasures. Life is all about small pleasures. If we keep on waiting for the big things that you're going to do in the future, you will be waiting for a long time. Appreciate the small pleasures every day. Why gratitude actually works? Because it has a meaningful effect on your brain and your body. It's the antidote to hedonic adaptation. It takes you off that hedonic treadmill that I want more. It adds to contentment. It adds to this sense of being good, right? So that's how gratefulness and gratitude works. It does rewire your attention from the negatives to the positives. It protects your well-being, and then it also deepens your bonds. As I said before, the most important relationship, the one that colors all others, is the relationship that you have with yourself. That is critically important. So, in this episode and in this part of the book, I talk about what can bring meaning to your life, what can add to your purpose. It could be family, it could be religion, it is at some level it is money and financial security, it could be power, it could be the party, could be country, service, or God. And then as we are looking at a purpose, we must recognize our concrete box, that we must look beyond our concrete box to find our authentic purpose, not something that was handed to us, not the expectations of our family and our friends and our society. We need to look inwards and see what is important to us, because that creates wisdom wealth. What can add, or one idea that I find very powerful, and we talked about it earlier, is Confucius's concentric circle. And here he talks about increasing our meaning and purpose. We start with ourselves, we develop ourselves, we gain awareness, we gain knowledge, we become better. Through that awareness, we take action, and we accept the outcome. So it starts with the self, and then it radiates out to the family. So once we have taken care of ourselves, we should immediately focus on our family. That's the second circle in Confucius's concentric circle. So it's self, and then we are responsible for our family. And then it goes to the third circle, which is community. And then it expands to nation, and then last is humanity. So So starting with yourself and family, those I believe are the two most critical circles that each person must nurture to find their purpose in terms of terrestrial meaning. Of course, when we are talking about cosmic meaning, then God does come into play, the spirituality comes into play, how we find that meaning. But again, self, family, community, nation, and humanity, that's how purpose radiates out in terms of Confucius's concentric circle. So I'll stop here. This was our episode about Know Your Purpose. This is part 3 of the book. In the next episode, we're going to talk about building financial security, which is the foundation on which we create wisdom wealth. So I look forward to welcoming you to the next episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you.